Today we're going to be talking about experts and the harm that they can do. When somebody speaks with authority and with passion, we listen. Often, when that person is wrong, it can end in catastrophic results. Let's take a look at a video from Jim Cramer from 2008.
Okay, Peter writes, should I be worried about Bear Stearns in terms of liquidity and get my money out of there? No, no, no. Bear Stearns is fine. Do not take your money out. This is really, look, if there's one takeaway other than a plus 400 somebody, Bear Stearns is not in trouble. I mean, if anything, they're more likely to be taken over. Don't move your money from Bear. That's just being silly. Don't be silly. Mad Money's back after the break.
This video is famous because Jim Cramer got it terribly wrong. After he advocated not selling Bear Stearns and said unequivocally that Bear Stearns is fine, Bear Stearns collapsed. My point in bringing up and showing this video is not to make fun of Jim Cramer or to show that he made a bad call. That happens all the time. The point in bringing up this video is that when experts speak authoritatively and with passion, it's very natural that we listen and we let our guard down. And the reason for this is that we have a human bias, specifically that as human beings, we are wired to listen to people who are in positions of authority. Another bias that we have is confirmation bias. So if somebody says something that we already agree with, we will tend to overweight that statement, especially if it comes from an expert. What's really insidious about this bias is that it happens in the background, and often you don't even realize that it's happening. You're just automatically persuaded. It's interesting to note that the opposite is also true. If somebody speaks tentatively, or they say, I don't know, or they give you cues that they're not sure, you tend to discount their opinion. I think it's perfectly fine to speak authoritatively about things that are factual or that you know for sure. So if you're talking about mathematics or you're talking about your opinion about something, I think it's absolutely fine to be authoritative. The problem comes in when experts speak authoritatively about things that are inherently uncertain. One example is investing. Unfortunately, it is not possible, in my opinion, for anybody to correctly predict the future of the stock market or the outcome of a specific company. Often the answer, in fact, many times the answer is I don't know. This reminds me of a story that I heard about Warren Buffett. And in evaluating business ideas that come across his desk, he has three baskets. One is yes, one is no, and the third is too hard. And what this story reinforces is that the greatest investor in the world knows that many times it's just too hard, or he's just not sure about whether something's a good idea or not, and that the best course of action may be just to step aside. As it pertains to experts, I think more experts should do the same, especially when they're advising people. And this applies to me as well. As a hedge fund manager, and Jim Cramer was also a former hedge fund manager, I think we owe a responsibility to people to say that we're not sure. And when people don't do that, the situation that Jim Cramer found himself in, when he basically is speaking very authoritatively without being absolutely sure. What he should have done is basically said that, it's his opinion, but was honest that anything could happen. The reason that more experts don't do this is because we are self-interested. Experts are usually selling something. In the case of a TV personality, they are selling ratings. In the case of an expert like me, who is selling hedge fund services, I want to come across as being very authoritative and competent so that somebody will invest in me. So there's this conflict of interest where if the expert is truly acting in your interest, they really should be completely factual and they should be honest with you when they don't know somebody. And yet that's in conflict with something that is in their own self-interest. My advice to you, and you should apply this with a grain of salt because I'm an expert, and even though I'm speaking authoritatively, I could be wrong, is that if somebody constantly gives you advice and you never hear them say, I don't know or I'm not sure, there are a couple of possibilities. One is that they're dealing in an area where there are absolute certainties and this person is a true expert. And if that's the case, that's fine. But on the other hand, if they're a lawyer, if they're an investment expert, or if they're a doctor, the reality is that in these fields, many times the honest answer is that they don't know because it's uncertain. We simply don't have a crystal ball when it comes to the financial markets. Doctors often don't know what's happening because the human body is complicated and not readily understood. Lawyers, similarly, cannot accurately predict with 100% accuracy what a judge will do or what another party will do. They also can't interpret with 100% precision how a regulator may interpret a law. At the end of the day, be wary of the expert who sounds too authoritative when the field they're in is not science. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please subscribe and share it with a few friends.